My family came to my birthday party empty-handed. No gifts, no cards, just a $12,000 bill for my sister's new teeth. It was supposed to be a small, happy evening. I'd just turned 32, and after years of saving every penny from my nursing job, I finally had a little condo of my own. I spent the whole morning cleaning, setting the table, and cooking dinner from scratch. I wanted it to feel warm, like the kind of family night I'd always hoped for. When my parents, Carla and Dean, arrived with my younger sister Tessa, I felt a little rush of joy. But that faded the moment they walked through the door. No flowers. No bag. No box. Nothing. Just polite smiles and my mom saying, "Oh, honey, we didn't have time to get anything. You know how crazy things have been." I tried to brush it off. Maybe they planned something later. We sat down for dinner, and the small talk felt strained. My dad kept staring at his plate, and Tessa kept checking her phone. When we were finishing dessert, she suddenly reached into her purse and pulled out a white envelope. She slid it across the table toward me and said, almost casually, "Mom said you'd help me out with this." I thought it might be a card, maybe a late birthday note. But when I opened it, my heart dropped. It was a medical bill, an invoice for $12,000. The name at the top was mine. The procedure? Cosmetic dental work for Tessa. At first, I thought it had to be a mistake. "Why is this in my name?" I asked. My voice was shaking. Tessa shrugged. "Mom said you'd be fine with it. You make good money, and I needed my teeth fixed before my new job starts." I looked at my mom. She didn't even look guilty. She just said, "It's family, Lana. You know we all have to help each other sometimes." Help. They hadn't even brought a card. I sat there in silence for a few seconds, my stomach turning. My dad cleared his throat and said quietly, "Let's not make a scene. We can talk about it later." But I couldn't hold it in. "You signed me up for a $12,000 bill, and you thought I'd just say okay?" Carla rolled her eyes like I was overreacting. "You're being dramatic. We've done plenty for you." That was the moment something cracked inside me. All the years of being the responsible one, the one who didn't ask for anything, suddenly felt like a punishment. They didn't come to celebrate me, they came to use me. I looked around the table and realized I didn't feel love in that room. Just expectation. Just pressure. I pushed the envelope back toward Tessa and said quietly, "You shouldn't have done this." No one said another word. The candles flickered, the air felt heavy, and I knew deep down, this birthday had changed everything. The next morning, I sat at my kitchen table with the envelope in front of me. I hadn't slept much. My stomach hurt just looking at it. The bill was real. There were numbers, dates, even my full name and address. But I couldn't remember signing anything for it. I worked in healthcare. I knew how medical billing worked. You couldn't just add someone's name to a financing plan. So, I called the dental office listed on the invoice. The woman on the phone was polite but firm. "Yes, Ms. Mercer," she said. "You signed the financing agreement in person 3 months ago." My throat went dry. "Could you send me a copy of that signature?" When the email came through, I opened the attachment, and my heart sank. The signature looked close to mine, but not quite right. The letters were off. It wasn't mine. Someone had copied it. My hands were shaking as I called my sister. Tessa answered after a few rings, sounding half asleep. "Hey, what's up?" I didn't waste time. "Tessa, did you put my name on your dental loan?" There was a pause. Mom said you wouldn't mind. You make more than me." She said it's just family helping family. My stomach turned. "Helping family? You forged my name, Tessa. That's not help, that's fraud." She sighed like I was being unreasonable. "God, Lana, it's not a big deal. You act like I bought a car or something. It's just teeth." "Teeth that cost $12,000, I said. "Do you even realize what this does to my credit?" Another pause. "Mom said you'd figure it out. You always do." That was it. That one sentence hit me harder than anything else. You always do. It was what my family had always believed, that I could handle everything, that I didn't need help or care or thanks. That evening, I went to my parents' house. Dean opened the door, surprised to see me. Carla was in the kitchen, acting like nothing had happened. "We need to talk," I said, holding up the papers. My name was forged. Carla didn't even look guilty. "You're overreacting. It's done now. Your sister needed help." "Help," I said, my voice cracking. "You told her to fake my signature." Dean looked at the floor, rubbing his hands together. "Let's all calm down," he muttered. "It's just a misunderstanding." I turned to him. "Dad, you knew?" He didn't answer. He just sighed, shoulders sinking like he was too tired to fight. In that moment, I felt something shift inside me, like a curtain being pulled back. I thought about growing up, how Tessa was always the one who got comforted, forgiven, rescued. When she failed a class, Mom blamed the teacher. When I got straight A's, they said, "That's what we expect from you." Tessa was the fragile one. I was the strong one. That's how it had always been. But now I saw what that really meant. Being strong just gave them permission to take from me without guilt. I left their house that night without saying goodbye. On the drive home, I checked my credit report from my phone. There it was, already showing the loan under my name. My score had dropped. My hands gripped the steering wheel so tightly it hurt. For the first time in my life, I realized this wasn't a mistake or a misunderstanding. This was who they were. This was what I was to them. Not a daughter, not a sister. Just someone to use when things got hard. The next day, I went back to my parents' house. I didn't want another fight, but I needed them to understand how serious this was. When I walked in, my mom was sitting on the couch with her arms crossed, like she'd been waiting for me. My dad sat beside her, quiet as usual. Tessa wasn't there this time. Before I could even speak, my mom said, "I can't believe you're making such a big deal out of this. After all we've done for you, you can't even help your sister." I blinked at her. "Help her? You forged my name, Mom. That's not help, that's illegal." She stood up, shaking her head. "Illegal? You're really going to throw that word around with your own family? You wouldn't even have that condo if it wasn't for us. Who watched you when you worked double shifts? Who helped you with gas money when you were in nursing school?" Her words came sharp and fast, like small knives. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. "You didn't pay my rent, Mom. I worked for everything I have. You're twisting this." Dean rubbed his forehead, mumbling, "Let's not do this again." But my mom ignored him. "You've always been selfish, Lana," she said. "Your sister needed help, and you're acting like you're some kind of victim. It's disgusting." That word hit me hard. Selfish. I'd spent my whole life doing things for them. Covering bills, babysitting Tessa's kids when she had them for weekends, paying for little emergencies no one else could handle. And now, because I finally said no, I was selfish? "I'm not paying that bill," I said quietly. My voice was calm, but inside I was shaking. "You made that decision without me, and you'll deal with it." Her face turned red. "You think you're better than us now? You get a nice job, a place to live, and suddenly you think you're too good for your own family?" "I think I'm tired," I said. "Tired of being treated like an ATM." She grabbed her purse, muttering something under her breath. "You'll regret this, Lana. Family doesn't turn their back on each other." I looked at her and said, "You turned your back first." She froze for a second, then stormed out the front door, slamming it behind her. The sound echoed through the house. My dad stayed seated, staring at the floor. "Dad," I said softly, "you know this isn't right." He finally looked up, his eyes tired. "You know how your mom gets," he said. "Just give it time. She'll calm down." I laughed, but it came out dry and bitter. Time isn't going to fix this. When I got home that night, I tried to eat something, but the food tasted like nothing. I sat on my couch in silence, the lights dim, staring at my phone. Then it buzzed. A message from my dad, "Give it time. You know how your mom gets." I put the phone down and stared out the window. The city lights blurred through my tears. I didn't just feel betrayed, I felt invisible. Like my voice, my feelings didn't matter. For the first time in my life, I realized my family would rather lose me than admit they were wrong. The first call came early in the morning while I was getting ready for work. A man with a firm voice asked to confirm my name, then said he was calling about an unpaid balance from a dental clinic. My stomach dropped. I hung up without saying much, hoping it was just one mistake. But by the third call that week, I knew it wasn't going away. At work, things got worse. I was on my lunch break when the hospital payroll office emailed me, saying there was a notice for wage garnishment. My hands froze on the keyboard. The email didn't say the reason, but I didn't need to ask. The debt was real now. My paycheck, what I lived on, was going to be cut. I sat there staring at the screen, feeling sick. Later that day, during a quiet moment in the ER, my phone buzzed with a notification. I almost ignored it, but curiosity won. A mutual friend had tagged my sister, Tessa, in a picture. It was her, smiling bright under perfect lighting, her brand new teeth shining. The caption said, "Finally confident again. So worth it." I stared at the photo until my eyes blurred. She looked happy, proud, even smug. Not one mention of me, not even a thank you. I locked my phone and shoved it deep into my pocket, my chest tight with anger. A few days later, I looked up from the nurse's station and saw someone standing in the hallway. It was my dad. His face looked drawn, and he held his hat in both hands like a kid about to confess something. "Dad, what are you doing here?" I asked, surprised. He took a slow breath. "I needed to talk to you. Your mom doesn't know I came." I led him to the staff lounge, where he sat heavily in a chair. "Lana," he said quietly, "please don't take legal action. You'll destroy this family. Your mother's not herself right now. She just thought she was helping your sister." I couldn't believe what I was hearing. "Destroy the family?" I said. "She already did that when she forged my name." He looked down at the floor. "I know she went too far, but court will only make it worse. You're stronger than this." There it was again, that word. Strong. I wanted to scream. I wanted to ask him why being strong meant letting people walk all over me. But I just said, "I can't do this anymore, Dad." He sighed and left, shoulders slumped. Watching him go, I felt both angry and sad. I missed having a family, but I couldn't be the one holding it together anymore. That evening, while I was charting patient notes, my coworker Milo Jennings stopped by. Milo was an ER tech, smart, kind, and brutally honest. He noticed my blank stare and said quietly, "You look like you're fighting ghosts. What's going on?" I hesitated, then told him everything. He listened without interrupting, nodding slowly. When I finished, he said, "Lana, if they forged your name, that's a crime. You need to fight back. Get a lawyer. Don't let them ruin your life." His words hit harder than I expected. I realized he was right. I couldn't fix this by being quiet. That night, when I got home, I opened my laptop and started saving every message, every email, every photo. It was time to protect myself. I sat in the waiting room of a small law office, my hands twisting the edge of a folder I'd brought with me. The air smelled like paper and coffee, and I could hear the faint hum of a printer behind the door. My stomach was tight with nerves. I had never hired a lawyer before, and even though I knew I was doing the right thing, it still felt heavy, like crossing a line I could never step back from. When the door opened, a woman in her 40s stepped out. She had calm eyes and a firm handshake. "Lana Mercer?" she asked. "I'm Eleanor Price. Let's talk." We sat across from each other at her desk. I explained everything, how my sister had forged my name, how the bill was in my account, how the debt collectors had already started calling. Eleanor listened without interrupting, occasionally writing small notes on a yellow pad. When I finished, she looked at me and said, "You have a clear case of forgery here. If we can prove your signature was faked, you can have this reversed and possibly press charges." My heart thumped in my chest. "So, there's a chance I can fix this?" She nodded. "Absolutely. But we'll need proof. Pull your full credit reports. Get any text messages, emails, or records showing your sister or mother discussing the loan. And bank statements, anything that connects them to the transaction." Her calm voice made it sound simple, but I knew it wouldn't be. Still, it was a plan, and I needed that more than anything. That night, I sat on my couch surrounded by papers. I went through old emails, text chains, and screenshots. My phone battery ran low, but I kept searching, scrolling through every conversation with my mom and Tessa. Then, deep in an old thread, I found it. A message from Tessa to Mom, dated months before my birthday. "Tessa, Lana's credit is good. She won't even notice if I use her info for the application. Carla, do it. She's always been responsible. She'll figure it out later." My chest felt hollow. I stared at the screen, reading those 2 lines over and over. They had planned this. It wasn't a misunderstanding, it was deliberate. My hands were shaking, and I had to set my phone down. I forwarded the screenshots to myself, then saved copies in a folder on my laptop labeled Proof. The word felt strange. Proof. As if I needed evidence just to show that my own family had betrayed me. Later, when the house was quiet, I found myself walking to my bedroom closet. I pulled out a small box of old photos. On top was one of me and Tessa as kids, sitting on the porch eating popsicles. My mom had taken it. We were both smiling, sticky-faced, and happy. I stared at that picture for a long time. Back then, I thought love meant giving everything you could. Now I understood that, to them, it meant taking as much as I would allow. They never saw me as a daughter. They saw me as a safety net. I placed the photo back in the box and whispered to the empty room, "Not anymore." Then I closed my laptop, knowing the next step would change everything. I made dinner reservations at a small restaurant downtown. It wasn't fancy, but quiet enough for a serious conversation. When I called my parents and Tessa to invite them, my mom sounded pleased, almost smug, like she thought I was ready to apologize. "It's about time you came to your senses," she said. I didn't correct her. I just said, "We need to talk." That night, I got there early. I ordered water and tried to steady my nerves. My hands kept brushing the folder sitting beside me. The one filled with printed text messages, loan papers, and a business card from my lawyer, Eleanor Price. I'd rehearsed what I was going to say 100 times, but my heart still raced. A few minutes later, they walked in together. My mom smiled like nothing had ever happened. My dad gave a small nod, and Tessa avoided my eyes, too busy checking her reflection in her phone camera. "Look at this," Mom said as she sat down. The family back together. I knew we'd work things out. I didn't respond. I waited until the waiter took our drink orders and left, then quietly slid the folder onto the middle of the table. "We're not here to work things out," I said. "We're here because I have proof." Tessa frowned. "Proof of what?" I opened the folder and spread out the papers. The signed loan document, the screenshots of their texts, and the lawyer's card. My mom glanced at them, then leaned back, laughing softly. "Oh, come on, Lana. You really went to a lawyer? You're overreacting." I looked straight at her. "You forged my name, Mom. That's a crime. And if I don't get my money back, you'll be hearing from the police." The table went silent. My mom's smile disappeared. My dad's fork froze halfway to his mouth. Tessa looked from me to Mom, her face pale. "Lana," my dad said finally, his voice low. "Let's not do this. Don't get the police involved. We can fix this quietly." "Then fix it," I said. "Because I'm done being the one you all take from." Tessa pushed back her chair. "You're seriously turning on your own family? Over some stupid money." "Stupid money?" I repeated. "You destroyed my credit, Tessa. You lied. You both lied." She grabbed her purse, glaring at me. "You're such a traitor." She stormed out, the door swinging behind her. My dad sighed, covering his face with his hands. "She's just upset," he muttered. But my mom's eyes were cold now, no longer pretending. "You think you're so righteous, don't you? Go ahead. Call the police. But don't ever come back to this family. You're done." I met her stare without blinking. "You already cut me off, Mom. This just makes it official." For a moment, she looked like she might say more, but instead she stood up and left without another word. My dad stayed seated for a few seconds, then whispered, "I'm sorry," before following her out. When the door closed behind them, I sat alone at the table, staring at the folder between the empty glasses. For the first time, I didn't feel fear. Just a strange kind of quiet. The kind that comes after a long, painful truth finally lands. I filed the fraud report the next morning. Sitting in that police station felt strange, cold, serious, final. The officer took my statement, copied my papers, and said they'd look into it. When I walked out, I sat in my car for a long time before driving home. My hands were trembling, but deep inside, I felt something close to relief. For once, I wasn't just letting them walk over me. That night, I blocked my family's numbers. Every one of them. The quiet that followed felt heavy but peaceful. No guilt-tripping calls, no sudden visits, no fake apologies. Just silence. Days turned into weeks. I focused on work, on my patients, on anything that could keep my mind busy. But every so often, I'd catch myself glancing at my phone, half expecting a message from my dad. Nothing came. Then one afternoon, an envelope arrived at my condo. It had a law firm's name printed on the corner. My heart sank before I even opened it. Inside was a thick stack of papers, a legal notice. My mother and sister had filed a counterclaim against me. They were saying I had given them verbal consent to use my credit for the dental loan. For a few seconds, I just stared at the words. Then the anger hit, hot and sharp. They weren't just lying to cover themselves. They were trying to paint me as the problem. They wanted to make me look like the liar. My chest felt tight, and I had to sit down to breathe. That night, I called Milo. He picked up right away. "What happened?" he asked when he heard my voice shaking. "They're suing me," I said quietly. "They're saying I told them they could do it. They're trying to make me look crazy." There was a pause, then his voice turned firm. "Lana, listen to me. You did nothing wrong. They're scared. That's why they're attacking you now. Don't let them win." I could hear the steady confidence in his tone, the kind that grounded me when everything else was falling apart. I told him I didn't know if I had the strength to keep fighting. He said softly, "You've come this far. You don't quit now." This isn't just about the money anymore. It's about standing up for yourself. After we hung up, I sat on my couch with the letter in my hands. The betrayal cut deep, deeper than I thought it could. They weren't just stealing from me. They were trying to destroy my name, my reputation, my peace. But underneath the pain, something inside me hardened. For the first time, I wasn't scared of them anymore. They could lie, twist stories, and shout all they wanted, but I wasn't going to back down. I folded the notice neatly, placed it with my case papers, and whispered to myself, "You picked the wrong person to break." The courtroom was smaller than I expected. The walls were plain, the air dry and still. I sat beside my lawyer, Eleanor, trying to stay calm while my hands twisted together in my lap. Across the room sat my mother, my father, and Tessa. They looked like they were there for some casual meeting, not a court hearing. My mother even smiled at me, a tight, fake smile that made my stomach turn. When the judge entered, everyone stood. My heart was beating so loud I could barely hear the words being spoken. The case began with my mother's lawyer claiming that I had verbally agreed to help my sister with the dental loan. I could feel my chest tighten with anger, but Eleanor placed a hand on my arm and whispered, "Let me handle it." They spoke for a long time, twisting everything I'd ever said or done. My mom nodded confidently every time her lawyer mentioned family trust. Tessa sat with her hands folded, eyes down, pretending to look ashamed. My dad stared at the floor, silent and pale. Then it was our turn. Eleanor stood, calm and steady. She laid out each piece of evidence, one by one, the loan papers with the forged signature, the collection notices, and finally, the printed text messages between my mom and Tessa. When Eleanor read the part aloud where my mother had written, "Do it. She'll figure it out later," the room went dead quiet. I looked over and saw the color drain from Tessa's face. My mother stopped smiling. She looked frozen, her mouth slightly open, but no words coming out. The judge leaned forward and asked sharply, "Mrs. Mercer, are these your messages?" My mother hesitated too long before saying, I don't remember." Her voice shook. Dean's shoulders slumped. He looked like a man who'd aged 10 years in that one moment. He didn't look at me or at her. He just stared straight ahead, his hands gripping his knees. Eleanor finished her presentation, her voice calm but firm. "Your Honor, my client never gave consent, written or verbal. What her family did was not only deceitful but criminal." The judge looked down at the papers, then back at us. "The evidence speaks for itself," he said finally. "The debt is dismissed. Restitution will be paid to Ms. Mercer by the defendants." I let out a slow breath, but it didn't feel like victory. My mom didn't even look at the judge. She turned to me instead, her eyes sharp with anger. As she passed by, she leaned close enough for only me to hear. "You'll regret this," she whispered. I didn't answer. There was nothing left to say. When they walked out, my dad glanced back once. Our eyes met, and for a second I saw guilt, maybe even shame. But then he followed them. I sat there for a while after it was over, staring at the empty chairs. I'd won, but it didn't feel like winning. It felt like saying goodbye to something that had already died a long time ago. Months passed after the hearing, and life slowly began to feel normal again. My credit report still showed scars from the debt, but the numbers were finally starting to climb back up. I paid my bills, went to work, and tried to focus on the small victories. Some mornings, I even woke up without that heavy feeling in my chest. Milo stopped by often. He said he was just checking in, but I knew he was making sure I wasn't slipping back into old pain. One Saturday, he showed up with paint cans and said, "This place needs new colors. Fresh start." I laughed for the first time in a while. We spent the day moving furniture, taping edges, and painting the living room a soft shade of blue. It felt peaceful, like washing away everything that had happened. When the last wall was done, I stood back and looked around. "It finally feels like my place," I said. Milo grinned and handed me a bottle of water. "It's always been yours, Lana. You just had to take it back." That night, after he left, I curled up on the couch, tired but content. The house smelled like fresh paint and quiet beginnings. I turned on some music, just low enough to fill the silence. Then my phone buzzed. It was a voicemail from an unknown number. I pressed play and froze when I heard my father's voice. "Hey, Lana," he said softly. "It's Dad. I left your mom. I couldn't do it anymore. I know I don't deserve much after everything, but I'd really like to see you. Maybe grab a coffee, just the two of us." The message ended, and I sat there staring at my phone. I hadn't heard his voice since the day in court. It felt strange, comforting and painful at the same time. Part of me wanted to delete the message and move on. Another part wanted to run to him, to believe that maybe something good could come from all this hurt. But I knew better than to rush. I'd built my peace slowly, and I didn't want to lose it by jumping back into old patterns. Still, he sounded sincere. Lonely even. And for the first time in a long time, his words didn't sound like excuses. They sounded like truth. A few days later, I sent him a short message. Coffee sounds okay. Saturday morning, at the usual place. When he replied with a simple thank you, I felt a strange calm settle over me. I didn't know what would come from it, maybe forgiveness, maybe just a quiet conversation. But I was ready to find out. That Saturday, as I walked toward the small coffee shop we used to visit when I was little, I realized I wasn't walking backward. I was moving forward, one careful step at a time. Whatever happened next, I was no longer carrying their weight. I was building something new, and this time it was mine. My next birthday came quietly. No big plans, no stress, no pretending everything was fine. I took the day off work and spent the morning cleaning my apartment, playing soft music, and baking a small cake. By afternoon, a few coworkers came over, people who made me laugh and treated me like I mattered. Milo arrived last, carrying a grocery bag instead of a gift bag. "Didn't know what to bring," he said with a grin. So I brought chips and soda. We all laughed and sat around my small table, eating pizza and telling funny stories from work. It felt light and warm, not like those tense family dinners where I used to smile through the silence. When things calmed down, Milo handed me a small box wrapped in plain paper. "It's not much," he said softly. "Just something that reminded me of you." I opened it and found a simple wooden frame inside. The words printed on the paper said, "Family is chosen." I stared at it for a while, my chest tightening in a strange, gentle way. "Thank you," I said, my voice quiet but steady. "You always know what to say." He smiled. "You deserve to have good people around you." The night went on with easy laughter and no expectations. When everyone finally left, I stood by the window, looking out at the soft city lights. The apartment was quiet, just the way I liked it. The cake sat half-finished on the counter, and the framed quote rested on the table beside me. I sat down, picked it up again, and traced the edge of the frame with my fingers. The words felt real, like something I'd waited my whole life to understand. Family didn't have to be the ones who hurt you. It could be the people who stayed when things got hard. My phone was still on the table, lighting up with notifications. I picked it up and scrolled through my contacts until I saw Mom and Tessa. For a moment, I just looked at the names, remembering everything, the lies, the guilt, the hurt. Then I pressed delete. The phone asked if I was sure. I pressed yes. There was no hesitation, no second thought. Just quiet relief. I set the phone down and leaned back on the couch. The night air drifted in through the open window, cool and calm. I looked at the framed quote one more time, a small smile forming without even trying. "Happy birthday to me," I whispered. And for once, that was enough. Do you think Lana made the right choice by cutting her family out of her life? Or should she have given them another chance? Let me know what you think in the comments. I'm really curious to hear your opinion. And if you enjoy stories like this one, don't forget to subscribe, hit the notification bell, and stay tuned for more real-life stories that will keep you hooked till the end.